We welcome now to CP24 tonight TTC spokesperson Stuart Green. Stuart, thank you for making time. I know you were listening into that conversation. So this incident we're talking about, this has happened 3 times in the last 15 years. A lot of people, as mentioned in that conversation, heard this story and, they felt this could have been me. What is the TTC doing at this point in time to ensure rider safety?
Well, I mean, we absolutely understand that people would feel anxious after incidents like that, but thankfully they are incredibly rare. 3 times since 2009, that's 3 times too many, frankly. But it does indicate just how safe the TTC is. We do not take that for granted. We do not take safety for granted. We're undergoing a massive stations transformation project. We're installing more cameras. We're taking collectors out of the booth so they're in stations. We could have cases in this particular case, for example, where one of our employees may well spot a suspect and be able to report that to police, who can then make a quick arrest. Hopefully that's the case. Maybe that'll happen. There are some very positive things that we're doing about stations transformation, about safety. We look at incidents like this and we learn from them. As far as what Marvin said, he acknowledged at the board meeting the other day that there's a great collaborative relationship now between his local, himself, our CEO, our executive. We've got a working group on employee safety. So we look at safety as paramount to everything that we do. I know I sound like a broken record when I say that, but it is true, and we are forever looking at ways to improve safety.
So can I ask, Stuart, what did the TTC learn from today? And when it comes to making things safer, the TTC, as mentioned by Marvin, phasing out subway guards, how will that improve conditions?
Well, I mean, that's a bit of a red herring. I mean, the guard issue has nothing to do with something like what happened last night, unfortunately. We can make subway operations more efficient. And eliminate that guard position and still have a very safe system. We absolutely appreciate the work that the guard did yesterday. And the first thing that we did was we offered them emotional counseling and family supports, which is a service that we offer to any employee who undergoes a traumatic incident like that.
Okay, so we also heard from TTC Riders Group calling for these platform doors to be installed to boost safety. This, as we mentioned, is part of the TTC's capital plan, but no funding for it. So explain why.
Well, I mean, we have conflicting priorities. We have a state of good repair to keep the system safely operating as it is. We have a $37 billion capital investment plan that we've put forward. Of that $37 billion, about $12 billion is funded. So there are a lot of projects that are unfunded right now. This is something that's been on our radar for many years. We've put forward a plan that would retrofit all of the stations. Some of the newer stations are equipped now to be retrofit, but it really does require a massive investment. There would be time. We'd have to do a lot of engineering work around how we would close stations or platforms to do this work. That's not to say we can't do it and we won't do it. If we can get the funding for it, we absolutely would do it.
Okay, I know you mentioned, Stuart, some support was offered to people who were involved in this yesterday, but are you concerned about the impact all this has on employees? The Star reporting this morning a spike in aggression on Toronto Transit, especially during the pandemic. So what is the agency doing to better support workers?
Yeah, well, in fact, what the Star reported was that over the last 5 or 6 years, the number of incidents has actually been declining on the bus network. So that's good news. We do not take that for granted. We have seen an uptick in the last year. We're closing more cases. We're getting special constables out quicker. They're able to respond quicker, so that's great. But yeah, in addition to the emotional support program, as I mentioned, we have a working group with ATU 113 and our other union partners to make sure that employees are part of the conversation. We want to hear directly from them and engage with them in ways that we can make the system safer for them and then respond quicker when we can. Things like, for bus operators, for example, things like improving the shield that they have. That's something that we're undergoing right now with the employees' input.
Okay, I know you mentioned special constables, so I just want to ask you about a few things that Marvin's been calling for service to be fully restored and for constable patrols to be ramped up. What's your response to those requests?
Well, both of those things are happening. So, I mean, we had committed that once the pandemic numbers started to go back up, Our ridership today was at 57% of normal levels. That's great. And our commitment was always that as ridership hits 50%, we would increase our operations back to pre-pandemic levels. That's happening. In May and throughout the fall, you're going to see those numbers go right back up. So services coming back. Special constables, we just hired a group of new special constables. I met a few of them just last week when they were coming through the building for their training. So there are more special constables that will be out in the field. So all of that is happening.
Okay, and before we leave you, Stuart, just want to get some advice for riders. How can people best protect themselves when they're on public transit?
Well, there are a number of ways. I mean, stay alert is one. I know it's a simple thing to say, but stay alert. If you see something, say something. On all of our vehicles, we have emergency yellow strips. We have cameras on all our vehicles in all our stations. We have the emergency alarms, the two-way interaction on the platforms that's available. In a case like what happened the other day with someone at track level, we do have at both ends of every platform, there's a blue light, and under that blue light is a power cut button. It's a big red button. You hit that, it cuts power. So if you ever see anybody on the track, and quite often what you see is people who go down for misadventure. There are other issues that complicate that, but if you see somebody on the tracks, hit that power cut button. That's another option that's available to people. And
Stuart, there have been lots of conversations about staying away from the platform, have a wall behind you. But as we begin to see transit ridership ramping up, a lot of people going back to work in the downtown core, that's not always possible during rush hour. What's your advice to folks in those situations?
Well, again, it's a matter of being aware of your surroundings. If you're uncomfortable where you are on a platform, there's probably other parts of the platform of the station. I know myself that if I come to a station that looks particularly crowded during rush hour, I'll maybe wait in the upstairs area if I'm at the Bloor-Yonge Exchange, for example. So there are ways to mitigate your concern. Like most things in life, there's a risk assessment you have to do. Look at your comfort level, be aware of your surroundings. And if you see something, say something. If you witness an incident, by all means, approach an employee, hit an emergency alarm, let us know what's happening, and we'll respond.
Okay, can I just ask you, Stuart, we're just finding out now that a woman was arrested in this case. Have you heard anything about this? This happened at Finch GO Station?
Yes, I have.
Okay, can you tell us a bit more?
Well, what I can tell you is that was the quick work of one of our collectors who observed somebody at a station, and they notified the authorities, which is exactly what our employees are great for. That's how we can respond. We would rather that incidents don't happen in the first place, but when they do, people can be assured that we have a lot of eyes out there, including our fantastic employees who are out there to report these things, and thank you to them for that.
And there was some great video, too, that helped with this, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we circulated that video. Police circulated the still image, and a very alert TTC employee called the authorities. So that was great. Well, they called transit control. We relayed that.
Okay, Stuart Green, TTC spokesperson, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate this.
My pleasure.